All right, well, I was done confusing you with additives, and we'd moved on to light sport oils. And I really thought I had pictures in there, which is kind of, not that it's a fancy thing, it's just a picture of a bottle of oil, big deal. Light sport oils, let's see. They want a little bit different oil than what we're using. So they developed their own well, Aeroshell developed it for them. So you have Aeroshell, A-E-R-O, Aeroshell Sport Plus, Sport, oops, that's P-L, Plus, Sport Plus 2. And that would be for? The second one.
There's a dolphin or something jumping on the screen back there.
2 strokes. Oh, yeah.
Shadow puppets.
It's the chair.
There it is. Oh, man, I knew that shares me a problem. All right, Sport Plus 2 for 2 strokes. Now, then they decided, oops, that'd be number 2, Aeroshell Sport, don't ruin it, plus 4 for
4 strokes.
for a 4-stroke. See, both oils were developed for non-certified engines due to the use of 100 low lead. So designed for ATs were non-certified because they kind of are in a way non-certified, or we should just say, actually cross that out and say light sport / Rotax. Might as well just say it. So you got your Rotax. Well, Rotax engines, you going to be fine back there? Okay.
He's just having a stroke.
I saw that. No, smile for us. Yeah, it's even. Rotax, snowmobiles and all that kind of stuff, well, they ran on unleaded. And so the oils that you'd be using in your snowmobile and off-road vehicle and all that with a Rotax would not be this stuff, but we throw in a bunch of lead. And so the oils that were developed originally for Rotax and such, they do not work well with lead. So we have to use this oil because of the leaded fuel we use. Now, if you didn't use leaded fuel in your Rotax engine, which doesn't need it, then you, I suppose, wouldn't have to run this particular oil. So designed for light sport, for use of 100 LL, 100 low lead. And then we do, of course, have, for lack of not lack of a better term, I do have a better term. I'm missing it. Remember. Oh yeah, so I cut stuff out. So 1, 2, 3 IV. So our I'll call it diesel or Jet A engines, compression ignition. Then you'd have Aeroshell diesel 10W40 full synthetic. Now, why are they getting away with full synthetic?
Because it's not gas. Yeah, not leaded.
There's no lead.
Which is weird,
Yeah.
like we were talking about yesterday about how diesel oil is just pitch black. You wouldn't want something to help carry it out.
It's just different with lead. So there's diesel 10W40 full synthetic and diesel ultra also full synthetic. But if you're running a diesel Jet A engine, well, there you go. It's one of those two, full synthetic. So there's your selection of oils. Choose wisely. Let's talk about additives. The thing about additives, for most of my life, I always thought, well, if it's such a good thing, then why don't they just put it in the oil? Like the LW additive. If it's so great, why don't they just put it in? Well, then they did. So I'm like, okay, so that makes sense. Is it money? Who's making the money, though?
Whoever's selling the additives.
Okay, so they're making the money, but if it's so great, why doesn't Aeroshell then put it in? Like they eventually
owns the other company.
Okay. So additives. I don't think I'm going to write any of this because it wrote, do not use unapproved additives in aviation. Well, I don't know. Is anything really approved when it comes to an additive? It doesn't come with a FAA approved additive. Just be very cautious about putting anything in the oil. The only two additives, well, three additives that I'm aware of that are industry standard or industry accepted, we'll call it that, is the Lycoming anti-scuff, right? Which makes sense. Lycoming made it, so they can put it in their engines. And then there's this stuff called AvBlend, which I don't really know what its claim to fame is. I did read some articles, not AvBlend, I'm not saying that, but that they had somebody had bought a whole bunch of these additives, across the board. Some of them were nothing more than lightweight oil, like 10-weight oil or something. It was just 10-weight oil. So I don't know. A lot of people use AvBlend. I don't know what their claim is. And then the big one is CamGuard, which you can see I switched to CamGuard. It's rather pricey, and it has a lot of phosphorus and calcium in it, which is supposed to protect your camshaft and put a coating on the parts. So I've been using CamGuard. So
Can you mix the CamGuard with the 80 plus?
absolutely I did. Yeah, you can put it in any of that. But I didn't because the Plus already kind of has that stuff in it.
Yeah, would it be like redundant or
Let's see.
something? Waste the-
Yeah, look right here. So the calcium, so 67, 99, 95, that's CamGuard. This is 100 plus. So not quite as much calcium.
The 34?
Yeah,
Or just like would that be
Should've done more
residue?
phosphorus.
the 34
Oh, yeah.
calcium, and then the phosphorus, it had a lot more phosphorus in it. So I did not run CamGuard in the Plus. I ran it in the 50 XC. And you can see exactly when I started it. Right back at 22.
With the calcium, would that just be like residual calcium from the?
It is possible. So he's like, is it residual calcium? Could be. It could be. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I did some reading and some research, and should I add it, should I not? And I came to the conclusion I shouldn't. So I didn't. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and one of the guys was talking about how he never runs his engine before he does an oil change. So, when you change oil in your car, those of you that do, do you just go out there while it's cold and do it, or you run it? Yeah, you want to run it, get everything, warm, get the oil out. And he's saying, man, don't do that. And the reason why is because, and this is what everything he said is true, that I could see, in your aircraft engine, if I check the oil before I leave, and it's been sitting in my hangar for, a week, and I check the oil, and it's right at 8 quarts, right? Close it up, start the airplane, fly it over, land right here, jump out, check my dipstick, it's going to say 7. So there's a quart somewhere, where did it go? And then we're here at class, everything's fine, I go to leave at end of the night, pull out the dipstick, it says 8. So there is 1 quart that's just sticking on everything and hasn't worked its way out. So his point was, if you run your engine first, you're going to take that 1 quart, you're going to sling it, disperse it out everywhere. That quart never gets changed. So I have an 8 quart, you only change out 7. So you always have 1 quart of oil hanging out. So don't do that. Yeah.
Isn't it also typically less viscous when it's cold?
It is.
So it'd be easier to change it when it's cold.
No. It pours like honey.
It's super slow.
Less isn't.
I know. So it'd be 20 weight, yes. But then again, remember, the ball bearings are smaller, but it flows smaller. All the ball bearings are like lethargic. They're tiny, but they're just slow. Stay there. So
I thought that I read, I might be wrong, but this company Blackstone,
Blackstone, yeah.
they say to do it, and I thought they had kind of a funny.
You are not wrong.
It says they'll be like, I will collect a sample in mid-stroke. I will collect a, you know what I'm saying? I thought that's
No, you're absolutely right. Where does it? It says it somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly how they want you to do it, and it does say to run it first. I'm going to stick to the running thing. I'm just gonna. If nothing else, I have a quick drain. As most aircraft engines do, we have a quick drain. All of your engines, you have that pipe plug, that 3/8 inch pipe plug off to the side of your sump. Those of you who've seen it, you guys have.
Yeah.
That's where the drain is. So you drain it there, then you pull the giant one and check your screen on a Lycoming. I have a giant screen in my engine. You check it every time you overhaul the engine. So we all have quick drains, which you just push quarter turn and lock, and then it runs out. You hook a hose up to it. It'd take an hour and a half to get 8 quarts out of that thing at cold. Yeah.
Same, but different. When we tested hydraulic fluid on the Hueys and Cobras, we had to have the aircraft ground turning for 15 minutes to get all the fluid up to speed and to make sure when we tested it that nothing had settled. Because if we let the fluid settle and then we test it and it says it's good, when in reality we have a bunch of metal in there, we won't ever know.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they want you to test it at specific points. Because they're checking your fuel instead of just replacing your
Oil.
fuel. Oil, yeah.
Let's see. All right. 6, going right here. Selection of oils.
Nothing for additives.
Well, I wrote, do not use unapproved additives in aviation. And the next thing was, if additives work, then why doesn't the oil company add them? Or one type of additive was just lightweight oil. We don't need to write that. So there are additives. I told you about the 3. Let's see. What was, yeah, thank you for that. Avblend, there you go. It's really fast. So this is Avblend. Like I said, it's one of the more popular ones out there that I'm aware of. Oh, how Avblend works, I don't know. I'm not going to watch a video, but oh, damn it,
Soaks in the metal.
yeah,
It does.
restores peak combustion for a while. I don't need to read more. Prevents valves from sticking, lower operating temps, prevent rust pitting. So,
So it's a rebuild kit.
yeah.
Overhauling a can.
Okay.
Overhaul in the can.
They actually make something called that, right? I think they do. Yeah.
Like head gaskets and whatnot.
Okay, so like maybe before I move on, it would be worth mentioning Marvel Mystery Oil.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard a lot about that.
Oh, I
used
go
to
talk
all
about
the
it
time.
on my bike.
Okay, Marvel Mystery Oil. Oh yeah, I worked with the guy. He swore by this stuff. It fixed everything. Marvel Mystery Oil looks a lot like automatic transmission fluid to me, but yeah, people used to just pour transmission fluid into your engine when you anyway. It's a solvent. It is a solvent. And it is supposed to break down varnishes and things that stick. So, for example, we had a Nissan Rogue that my wife would start it up. It sounded like one of the tappets never inflated. And so tappet's not working. So I got Marvel Mister Oil and I put it in the oil change, and it actually kind of solvented up and started to work a little bit better, about 50% better. So, okay. That's fine, but that's an automotive engine. I would never consider sticking it in my engine. Some people put Marvel Mystery Oil in the fuel so that it goes through the carburetor and into the combustion chamber. That will mess with your octane rating, which could cause detonation and destroy the engine. I wouldn't do that. So, but you do what you want. Yes.
Yale Liquid Engine Overhaul. It's the brand. It looks like it's from the 50s.
So anyway, you want to know more Avblend, you can watch our YouTube video. I don't know what they have in there.
So would Marvel Mystery Oil not be used?
I would not, definitely not. Oh, let's go back to that because I want to say,
I think it says all types of engines on the.
yeah,
front
but
of
I want to.
so-
Did it say FAQs? I bet there's got to be something compatible. There we go. Yes, is FA approved? I don't know what that means.
Just means that the FAA
Yeah.
hasn't said it's not approved.
Does it replace engine
They
oil?
improved it as oil.
Could use in turbocharged engine. Yes. You still have to use the additive. No, do not add it to the fuel.
This is fun. It's like, guess what's gonna say?
I know. Anyway.
Will it void?
Yes, no.
Oh shit, my voice.
If the failure occurs, the manufacturer would have to provide positive proof ab blend caused the failure in question.
Sounds
Okay,
like they
that's-
just go back and forth and just say, good luck with that.
All right, selection of oils. You will be called upon to select oils. That is a fact. So, first thing let's consider is, why am I using a 50 weight? I mean, anybody car in here? I mean, geez, what is my wife's, her Subaru is like OW20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super light.
Super light. I don't want to say my last car, that oil in that was not much different. It's like OW30 or something, or 5W30, right? So cars, I'm using real super lightweight oils. I mean, that Mobile One stuff, you guys pour that, I mean, it doesn't matter what temperature. It's just like bloop and it's gone. It's like, wow, that came out fast. So, but aircraft recip engine oil has a relatively high viscosity. Right? Why? Huh?
Internal clearances?
There you go. Internal clearances. Due to larger clearances and higher operating temps. And higher operating temps. What's the cylinder head temperature on your car?
No
That
idea.
is a great question.
Duke?
What's your CHT, dude?
Well, what's the cylinder head temp on a car?
90 Celsius.
Yeah, which is in English, about 195.
Below boiling.
Yeah, 195.
Yeah.
So yeah, guy drives a German car, I guess.
Some of his responses, I'm like, did he ever actually work at BMW? He's like, yeah, what?
Are you from this country? The head?
Not many cars.
Oh no, I didn't.
So your cylinder head temp is running about, like you said, below boiling, just below boiling, or roughly that. So it's under pressure, so the boiling temp changes. But 195, 200, right? Okay, so what's, huh? Am I right? No, not exhaust. So what's the cylinder head temp of my aircraft?
1,200 degrees.
180. Yeah. It's like that.
About 360 on average.
360.
About 350.
Wow. So what the?
Yeah, I always.
Oil to
So that's a little bit different, isn't it?
fucking high.
What? That's cold. You know, some people are fighting to keep theirs down below 400. So mine runs pretty cool. It's cowl flaps closed. There's another thing, cowl flaps. You gotta buy cowl flaps. So anyway, yeah, higher operating temps. So it does operate higher. I don't think cars have an oil temperature gauge.
Yes.
What would it be?
Usually it's not a number. Usually it's just the high and low.
Yeah.
It's just a tick, tick, tick red.
Low 200s? That's interesting, low 200s. So we strive in aviation to get our oil temp right about 180, 190. That's a really good range, 180, 190. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, I know. The correct oil should be the thinnest oil that will stay in place and maintain a reasonable film strength. That is out of the Q&A.
Does oil weight affect temperature at all? You go a higher, thicker, heavier oil?
Yes, I think it does. So in the summer, you want a much thicker oil. It's better with weight.
looking for a hotter temperature? You're saying thicker oil will be hotter, or
No, it will be better in a hot environment. Okay, to answer your question, I don't know directly. So
in the
let's see.
summer I want that thing to run hotter, so I'm like wondering if I should still run 80.
If it's running hotter, you would switch to a higher viscosity. Hey, what kind of oil am I supposed to use here in this airplane?
Depends on the thing.
Yeah.
10,
What
30.
temperature
Mil
range?
L6082 aviation grade straight mineral oil used to replenish supply to the first 25 hours, and at the first 25-hour oil change, continue to use until a total of 50 hours has accumulated oil consumption stabilized. The airplane is delivered to the factory with a corrosion preventative first 25 Continental Motor specification ashless dispersant oil. This oil must be used after the first 50 hours or oil consumption has stabilized. Recommended viscosity for temperature range. So anything above 4 degrees Celsius, which is 40 degrees, above 40 degrees I should be using
Let's say 50.
50, or they say a 10W30 or SA30 below that. So multiviscosity at the range of 1030 is recommended for improving starting in cold weather. So what does this very old VOH recommend I should be using?
I say 50.
50. If I pull up the operator's manual for my engine, it will have different specs on it. More, but I won't do that. Oops, wrong one. Okay,
Say 50 is about 100.
it is 100, exactly. Okay, let's see. Same place. Aircraft oil should conform to. Mil L6082. And that should be the straight mineral. And or MIL L22851 for ashless dispersant, AD oil. 22851. So if they all conform to the mil spec, that means it is acceptable not recommended to mix oil brands. I don't really have an issue with it. Obviously, do not mix turbine and recip oils. Because turbine engine oils are, well, I guess you can mix half and half, then you'd get your own, mix your own 15W50 in there, right? All right. So the thinnest oil, according to the AD, but what would you really do? You're going to go to the manufacturer's POH and take a look and see what it says. As I pointed out, the pilot operating handbook for my aircraft is much older and does not have nearly the information that I would get from the manufacturer. So although I guess it could be argued that the POH, that once the engine is attached to the airframe, it's a Cessna product and I should be following the Cessna. But as an engine-minded person, I'm going to look at Continental service bulletins, instructions, operator's manual that Continental provides because it's a little more up-to-date and it's their engine, and that's the way I would do it. So let me see, A, B, C, D, during break-in. During break-in, what are we going to use? All right, so TCM and Lycoming, otherwise known as?
Everyone's important.
Legacy.
Oh, you get a candy bar.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Thank you. All right, anybody else want a candy bar?
Yeah, I want one.
Give it to
I asked
Give it to Evan, Mike.
What's the question?
Yes.
All right, look under your seat.
You get a candy.
Yeah.
Well, I got the gun.
All right. Let's see.
I feel like I gotta answer a question for it though.
I know that was more fun, wasn't it? So
What's 2 plus 2?
I know.
Stephen won it for all of us.
I know. What's the torque on a 1/4-inch bolt?
Oh, 96 to 106.
Oh, it's not 300.
300 or some type of unit. But maybe not inch-pound.
So 300 of some type of unit.
Yeah, well, I don't know what unit that is.
You didn't say what it needs to be. It just can't go up that.
Not to point fingers at anybody, but somebody decided to torque a 1/4-inch bolt to 300 inch-pounds today.
Did it work?
Did it work?
Yeah.
If your goal was to snap the bolt in half, it worked fantastic. Okay. TCM and Lycoming recommend. Recommend what? Recommend what kind of oil? All right, straight mineral oil.
Straight mineral.
Mineral oil for how long?
For first 50 hours.
Yeah, up to
Or
50,
until-
50 hours. Well, 25, then you can do it again for another 25. So 25 plus 25. So change it 25 or until oil consumption stabilizes. Except,
Stabilizing, I mean, it all, like, do they give you a rate at how many quarts should burn per hour? You know what I'm saying? Because you
Yeah.
burn. So, like, what is stable?
I'm not aware of any actual chart that says exactly what stable is. There's industry standards kind of. It's like, well, quart every hour is not stable. That's really bad. Not on Lycoming turbo engines. To the best of my knowledge, Continental doesn't have a restriction on their turbo engines like Lycoming does. All right, I'm going to leave out the rest of this because it's starting to get a little dated. I said ECI and several engine overhaul shops disagree with this theory and recommend AD oil from the start. And then Phillips, or ECI, which doesn't exist anymore, recommend the Phillips XC. That's what I used. Theory being that AD oil is too slippery for ring break-in, but this theory is proven false. Simply stated, straight mineral oil is not as good an oil and simply accelerates wear, which is true, but I think I need to teach you what the manufacturer wants you to do, not my opinion. But you have my opinion anyway. Oh yeah. Always consult the manufacturer's service bolt and follow it unless you want to warranty the engine. That's not like something I just kind of snarky say. That's what we all say in the industry. You know, it's funny. I think I was reading something today where somebody's like, well, what oil should I use? And somebody's like, well, unless you want to, or it was a mechanic, what oil should I put in it? It's like, well, unless you want to warranty the engine, you put what the manufacturer wants in it. Okay, so after break-in. After break-in what? Yes.
Bus.
Let's see. After break-in, let me see. I have some more stuff here. Consider, oh, I said first, FIR. First consideration is the type of engine. So before I decide what kind of oil, I got to decide what type of engine I'm dealing with.
Radial versus opposed.
Radial versus opposed versus light sport. Right? Operating loads. I forget where I got this from. I thought they were good points, but speed of bearings. I hope the bearings aren't, especially if they're plain bearings, aren't moving too fast. And then type of engine. So opposed engines use thinner oil than radials. All right, so more than anything, it's just, okay, what type of engine is it? I think that's the most simplistic thing because that's the easiest category to look into. Then after that, you're going to look at second consideration.
Manufacturer's recommendation.
Maybe that should have been first, but
Your only consideration.
is temperature. So if I look at service instruction 1014 Mike, which would be which engine manufacturer?
Like,
Good, take a bite of your candy bar.
Take another candy bar then?
Selection of oils. I should just put this chart like in my PowerPoint. That would have just been just spectacular.
oh wow.
But I didn't, so. That's about greases. I'm not going to talk about grease. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. What the hell? You don't have to write if you don't want to. Oh, we could just do this. Let's just be quick about this. Service instruction 1014, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, you're the one that told us.
That's November.
I know.
November.
Do the alphabet. L, M, N. So guess what they had?
An update.
An update.
November 16th.
Oh.
Looks familiar.
And I knew there was a J in there now. SAEJ or mil spec. All right. So all temperatures. Let me make this a little bit smaller. There. See it okay? All right. So all temperatures. All temperatures. So for all around great temperatures, you're going to fly it here, Alaska, the mid, all over the place, and 20 W50. You don't have to worry about it. So somebody says, yeah, I'm going to fly down to Death Valley for a little while, then I'm going to take a trip up to Alaska, and then, off into Canada. It's like, well, okay, so you're hot, you're cold, all right, 2050, you're good to go. In the non-dispersant, in the ashless dispersant, we'd have 15W50. Who makes that?
Aerosol.
Aeroshell. SA2050, who makes that?
Phillips.
Phillips, or the 20W60, which is
Phillips for radial only.
for radial. Okay, let's take a look at this. And this is only for opposed, too. Opposed series, because Lycoming does make a radial. They're just old. Above 80 degrees, then you should be using.
60.
Isn't that crazy, though? I mean, this is above 80 in summer
yeah,
here.
that seems.
So that would be Aeroshell 120.
Yeah.
Yeah. Above 60. So.
Oh, but that's.
Well, technically, 80 is above 60.
It is.
So. So you can see the colder it gets, the thinner the oil down to below that. So.
This average temperature below 10 degrees, wherever you are, you need to be.
God, now I really want s'mores.
Oh, we should start a trash can fire. We could do it.
That'd be like the
Trash
rest of
fire.
the
Just turn on one of our.
Yeah, that's a great trash day to start.
Sure, something will catch on.
Put it right there.
It'd be like Cam guarding your lawn.
That's what we can do. You just,
He's got
you
his
lecture,
clothes.
we just. We can learn about the.
I'll bring the
oil
USPS
by
boxes.
We can get Tommy to start the fire too.
All right, so this is the Continental M0 manual. So why it's M0, I do not know. But what they did is they took all their service bulletins and they stuck them in a book so that you can't find anything. But let's just see if we can see anything in here about oil. Lubricants, sealants, and adhesives. Oil change, brand selections, subby, 3-1. That sounds good, right?
Ready?
3-1. Let's see if we can get there. Would have been nice to give me just a hyperlink right to it.
Did you say the M0 manual is updates? Did they update it? With
Yeah, there's been updates.
So can you access this? Is this free access?
No. But you have free access to it
On,
through the school,
Very on.
through Varion. This is not Varion. I didn't access it. All right, there we go again with our SAE J188, J188. So Continental recommended oil grades above 40 degrees SA50 or multi-viscosity, and below 40, 30 or multi-viscosity.
Well, that's easy.
Do Continental Lycoming do manufacturers do that thing where they make their own oil and like recommend their own fluids? And
Here you go. Here's your brands. Castrol, Exxon Elite, Pennzoil, Phillips 66, Type A, Philip Victory, XC 2050, or Aeroshell Mineral, Aeroshell Multigrade, Aeroshell W's, Aeroshell the Plus. They say it's Plus. Anti-corrosion is fine. So there you go. That's all the stuff you can for your ashless dispersant. So they throw all that in there. Yes.
So for that engine that you were talking about, you did the LW
Lycomings.
6702.
Lycomings.
Lycomings.
Oh, the H280.
Yeah. Would you? So during break-in period, would you also add that LW 16702?
Ooh, man, I'd have to look that one up.
Since it's just straight mineral oil, additives.
sounds even worse.
Well,
though.
yeah, it's
That,
both
that
bad, yeah.
sounds bad.
The H, that's this engine that needed it. May be operated either non-animal or ashless. However, if the engine is delivered with ashless, it must remain ashless. It must be added to the O&E engines at airframe installation. There you go. And every 50 hours after it, every oil change.
Thank you.
So, yep, got to have it. If it is determined that the FAA-approved lubricating oil being used contains oil additives equivalent to that, and you can, so. All right, let's see. So we had the temp chart, which I'm not going to write down, so we can just kind of, you saw it. Oil consumption. So unlike cars, aircraft engines should burn oil. Should burn some oil. How much? About 1 quart every 10 hours is good. Down to oops, I don't know what the heck that was. Down to 1 quart per hour. That's a lot.
Damn, 1 quart an hour, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. But there are people who are doing that. Something I never did, but I hear about it. I listened to that Ask the AMPs podcast, and there's some weird stuff on that. Like I said, there's that guy Paul New. I just think the guy is very, very smart. Whenever he says something, it's like, it's very interesting to me. So some of my new stuff is like kind of coming from his head. And then there's Mike Bush, who I don't always agree with, but he's really, really good at making friends in the industry and bringing in information that you may not otherwise hear from real big experts. So one of the things that, I don't know where this came from, but it's this ring wash that they talk about. And I've never done it, and I'm like, I hope I never have to. But they basically take some sort of solvent, and I looked it up, and I forget what it is exactly, but it's a solvent. And you put your piston at bottom dead center, you pour the solvent into the cylinder, put the plugs back in, and you pull the prop through the hydraulic lock, and you force all this fluid down past the rings, off down into the oil sump, and then drain it out the oil sump. So they recommend this ring wash. Apparently, and I've never seen this, Lycoming had a procedure for doing a walnut blast in place with the cylinder on the engine to clean out stuff. I'm like, I don't know
What
about
the fuck?
it.
Blast it through into the cylinder?
Yeah,
How the hell are you going to know if you get it all out?
you won't. That's how you know. You just didn't. I guarantee. Yeah, you burn it out.
I guess
It'll
so.
get kicked out the exhaust.
Yeah, you just...
Yeah,
the exhaust pipe.
it's walnut. It can't hurt anything. That's what Kevin said.
All right. So what's going to dictate some of my factors on oil consumption? You got high oil consumption.
Worn rings.
Yeah. So engine condition.
Valve guy.
So I only have some. Worn rings, your taper in your cylinder where it should have been choked is now tapered out. There's a big step in there. You can actually get big wear steps up in there. So we have the rings. I'm not writing this stuff down. I guess I could. Rings, cylinder wear. I heard worn guides.
Oil leaks.
Yeah. Well, oil leaks will contribute it. I got to put that in there. External. Would worn bearings cause high oil consumption?
The bearings?
Yeah.
Maybe like a secondary cause.
It's all internal.
It's all internal. It's like internal bleeding. It's not bad. It's supposed to it's supposed to be in there. I don't make such a big deal about it.
Is that what you told people when you were in the
Yeah.
paramedics?
They're like, I have internal bleeding. Well, good. It's supposed to be in there. It's external bleeding we got to worry about. So I don't, worn bearings. See, that's not going to have a factor in it. It'd have a factor in low and oil pressure, but not that. So we're talking about consumption, oil consumption. So it'll burn it there. I don't know what book I got this. RPM. So running it faster. Well, we're just going right back to the rings in the cylinder wear could have effect on it. The higher the RPM. And of course, oil characteristics could have. The thinner the oil, the more it's going to get by the rings and everything. It could lead to more burning of oil.
Or pre-ignition if you're wearing the
All right, oil change intervals. How often do you change your oil?
When do you need to?
Oil is reasonably expensive. I mean, no, it's reasonably cheap. It's expensive, but it's reasonably cheap compared to the price of a new engine. So, regular oil change are critical to engine longevity. I'll be honest, when I bought into the 150, so I owned half of the 150. My half was probably behind the firewall. That was terrible. I only flew that plane like 5 to 10 hours a year. My partner flew it the rest of the time. He didn't fly it that much more, but we flew about in total like less than 25 hours a year on this plane. And you change your oil every 25 hours. So guess how often I change the oil in that little plane? Every annual, if it needed it or not. It's so bad. It's just, and it kind of sat outside. But, now that I have the 470, it's like, oh, no, this is a pricey engine. So that's, I have a big whiteboard in my hangar. You saw it. It says right on there, oil change due. It's got the date and the hobs. So, all right.
How much is the oil?
Okay, so why is oil change so important, and why do we do it both at tack time or engine hours and calendar time?
Because the
Breaking
additives
down,
break down.
oil breaks down over time.
Yeah.
And
Oil becomes diluted with moisture, acids, and finally, means small, finally divided, suspended, solid particles.
All because it's got an open crankcase breather, right?
Not necessarily. Yeah, part of it is that moisture comes up the crankcase breather, but it's going to get in there otherwise because you got valves that are open and stuff, and you get the cylinders and things. I actually heard, probably on that same podcast I was mentioning, like it was Paul New talking about, or somebody, I don't know, heard something from a source that I kind of liked. And they had talked about an engine that had been sitting for over a year without operating. And they said the last thing they wanted to do was start this engine up and operate it and get the oil warm and drain it. Because at that point, the oil had so much contaminants and water and moisture that they didn't want to disperse it throughout the engine. You want to drain it immediately, even if the engine had no time on it at all. Drain it, put in fresh oil, and then start and run it. And then, I don't know if they said that, but I'm thinking myself, I might even want to, drain it. Yeah, run it, fly it once, and do it all over again. So primary source for contaminants. Is from combustion. Combustion deposits. Deposits. Due to blow-by. What's blow-by?
Air getting past the rings.
Pass all the way.
Air getting past the rings. That combustion getting past the rings.
Does the mechanic line them up correctly?
And
Did line them up.
He lined them up all perfectly.
and oil migration on the cylinder walls. So the oil getting past the rings as well. So even a dormant engine will collect moisture. Even a dormant, what's dormant?
Sitting, standing still.
Engine will absorb moisture. Oh, it's actually a TCM thing. So TCM recommends oil change before starting an engine. That has sat for several months.
Is there like procedure, like if you're gonna, your airplane's gonna sit for a while, is there like manufacturer things that they tell you?
There is. It's called pickling. It's obnoxious, and I hate doing it. So you get this pickling oil, and it's been a long time since I did it, but I remember the part I hate. So you put some of this pickling oil into the regular oil, or you fill it with this oil. I think you add it, and then you run the engine, and then you have that pickling oil in a spray bottle, and you lean up in the carburetor and you spray it in the carburetor while the engine's running and try and kill it with this stuff. I'm serious. Try and kill it with that.
How long you're gonna set it?
Yeah, and then you spray it in the cylinders, and then you don't move the prop after that. So,
You gotta
Just
sit
fly your
under-
airplane.
huh?
You just sit under there with the carb heat on or something like that?
Yeah.
Just fuck that.
Yeah, no, I didn't like doing that at all. So, all right, probably a good place to stop right there, eh?
Did you want to